for governor of California in 2010 and was arrested outside a gubernatorial debate for trespassing at a private party. And I remember that because many of us were there. She lives in a community house in Oakland and is the mother of Natalia, something I didn't know until yesterday, lead singer in the band Social Studies based in the Bay Area. So with no more ado, I will give you Laura Wells. Just so you know, John is taking time. Oh, 15 minutes? He'll be holding up something, telling you how much time you have left. Does that work?
Hi. Microphone working okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and well, thank you, all of you who are registered Peace and Freedom for your endorsement. Can I ask, was Ellen Brown endorsed for treasurer?
Yes.
Okay, great. I view the two of us as the financial sort of Rosie the Riveter team. Just give us the money positions in California, we'll roll up our sleeves and fix the budget and the economy. And one of the things that we will do, if they ask you day one, what would you do if you were elected? It's like start working immediately on setting up a publicly owned bank, a state bank for California. And what that would do is invest in California and not Wall Street. There's one state in the country that has a state bank, and I'm going to count to 3 and ask you to say it out loud. Which one is it? 1, 2, 3.
One of the Dakotas.
One of the Dakotas.
Either north or south. I'm pretty sure it's not east or west.
It's North Dakota. And however much of that you knew, the reason that you know that is probably because of Ellen Brown. And I learned of it in my 2010 race for governor early on and started promoting it. And I know that a lot of people learned about it from that. I had a campaign manager at some point that said, oh, don't talk about a state bank, it's too esoteric. And I said, it's a solution. I mean, people want it. And it would be the kind of thing where I would pass out a leaflet that had that talked about state bank on one side. And sometimes, you know, when you're passing out leaflets, people are trying to get by you without you catching them. And so they'd go by and I'd say, state bank, invest in California, not Wall Street, and they would turn around and pick it up. And so it wasn't esoteric. People know that there are solutions out there and they want them. I'll say more later about the state bank, but right now what I want to say about the solutions is that probably everybody in this room knows we're not going to get them with the Titanic parties. We're not going to get them with the Democratic Republican Party. They are not going to implement solutions. They will give us half measures occasionally in order to make a lot of people think that they're going to do something. And it's become really clear to me, and I think especially since I worked real hard in 2006 on getting ranked choice voting, IRV, in Oakland. And we did get it passed in a voter initiative, 69%. And Berkeley had done it, I think, 2 years prior. Berkeley had gotten instant runoff voting. And a couple of years before that, San Francisco had it. And other than ranked choice voting, IRV, I can't think of a single campaign or electoral change that's been for the better. What they will give us is stuff that's for the worse. They're not going to change the rules to make it better for us. And so the only thing that I can think is that we certainly need to be opportunistic. You know, that's a word that can be used in a very sort of malevolent way, but we need to take the rules as they have them and get in power. And by we, I mean we who are not corporate-funded candidates, who don't take corporate money. To me, that's the way that you can distinguish one candidate from the other, and it's by something not that they're promising or anything like that, it's something that they're doing now. They're either taking money, corporate money, or they're not. Now, what's the best example? It's a city in the Bay Area. What's the best example of a city where they have people who are elected who have taken no corporate money. I'll count to three. 1, 2, 3. Richmond. Richmond, the biggest city in the country with a Green Party mayor, and she has run as part of the Richmond Progressive Alliance. She was first elected to city council in 2004. And then 2 years later, she ran for mayor. She won in 2006. She won in 2010. And now in 2014, since she's termed out, she's running for city council. And what has happened in Richmond is that the Richmond Progressive Alliance decided to run candidates, some Greens, some Democrats, some others, but together they all pledged to take no corporate money. And this is in company town Richmond that has refineries of the biggest corporation in the state, which is Chevron. And Chevron, my favorite election of all time was 2010 in Richmond, where Chevron put $1 million into 3 city races, and they lost, and lost. The RPA, our side, the people's side, won. And I believe it's at least 7, but I believe it's an 8-member city council. One thing that I wanted to make sure everybody knows is they've never actually even had a majority, and they've been able to make that much of a difference. We actually need people at the table, even a minority at the table, in order to get, that was one of the things that I think Mike Parker, I remember him saying, and Mike Parker is running for mayor in Richmond, Progressive, in the city of Richmond this year. One of the things that he said is that just the fact that they were there putting forth these ideas, if it had been a closed shop where everybody there was a Democrat, Richmond is 85% registered Democrat, is what it has been, hugely Democratic, just like California. And what was it getting them? It was getting them Chevron. But since they were all Chevron Democrats, which is a little redundant, but they didn't have to bring up certain ideas. The ideas never even got there, never got on the agenda. So that's one of the reasons we need to start getting elected. We being no corporate money candidates. The thing that I wish that we would do, that we could do, is use every opportunity that we have to use the power that we already have. And in the top 2 primary, I have to admit, I was absolutely ineffective trying as hard as I could to get my own party, the Green Party, to adopt this stance. But the stance that I wish we would have adopted is this: the top 2 sucks. That primary is really bad. Let's fight it. Let's try to change it. But there is a little opening in it, and the opening is that any voter can vote for any candidate. And so vote, and vote for a no corporate money person, but get the word out to the voters that any voter can vote for any candidate. They actually don't know that. They still think that they have to vote for what they're registered. A lot of people don't get it about the top 2 primary. They might even get that there's just 2 people that show up in November, but they don't get where there's a possibility. And of course it's difficult to get the word out without corporate money, without the buy-in of the military, industrial, prison, pharmaceutical, insurance, banking, media complex. But still, to the point that we can get that word out, any voter can vote for any candidate. Go. If you want to vote for corporate financed candidates, you're sort of happy with a corporate controlled government, okay, wait until November and we'll vote for them then. But do vote in the primary and vote for the no corporate money candidates. How do you know who they are? Green and Peace and Freedom. Vote for Green and Peace and Freedom. And the other ones, if they happen to be no corporate money candidates, which occasionally they're starting to pick up on it, both in Richmond and otherwise, then they will let you know. So do that, and I wish that we would look for the, I mean, I don't know, I guess some people have accused me of being Pollyanna, not recently. Recently, one of my favorite quotes, I have two favorite quotes. One is George Carlin, and the other is Lily Tomlin. And George Carlin said, "Scratch a cynic and you'll find a disappointed idealist." And I think that, you know, in my cynical moments, I think that's a good one. And I like Lily Tomlin in Search for Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe. I worry that no matter how cynical I get, it's impossible to keep up. So I always say that if anybody accuses me of being cynical, I go, I still can't keep up. So I also want to, I'm not sure where my time is at, but public banking is very important. I wanted to give you some specifics about that, and I also wanted to talk about tax the rich. My favorite button, tax the rich, duh. So the public bank partners with local banks and credit unions. It doesn't compete with them. Generally, it would not be a consumer bank. You would have your checking accounts and all of that with the local banks. If you were a small business, you would have your loans and your credit lines with the small local banks and the credit unions. Well, businesses don't do credit unions. But you would have, but if you were a small business and you started to grow, rather than have to move to a Wall Street bank in order to get more credit or a larger loan, you could stay with your local bank, and the state of California would participate with that local bank in order to enable you to have a bigger loan. So the money would all stay in the state. It wouldn't have to go to Wall Street. And it would help to, because of that participation, it would help to guarantee that we could make good loans to homeowners, good loans to students, good loans to small businesses and local businesses. I just heard on the Richard Wolff's economic update on Friday, what's today? So that was yesterday, where he was talking about there's only one state out of 50 that has not raised tuition recently, to where the tuition is taking a bigger and bigger, the tuition that the students pay is paying for a bigger and bigger portion of the entire cost of going to the public universities. I'm going to count to 3 and give you one state, I'll give you a guess about what state that is. And that is, you didn't give me a chance to count. But it's North Dakota. Can we say duh? Yeah. Okay, so, and California, rainy day fund is the lousiest idea. I mean, Jerry Brown is an ace at wrapping up garbage and making it look like your birthday present of anybody I know. But rather than a rainy day fund where you're taking money aside out of excess taxes, meanwhile you're cutting everything from health care to potholes, to tuition, to everything, to parks, and selling off the public assets. And a rainy day fund, it's raining. It is raining economically. Rather than that, have a public bank. Use the credit that you have. There's lots and lots and lots of money, billions of dollars sitting around waiting to be spent. That's capital. It's also known as capital. So public bank. Taxing the rich. I think we need to start talking about, well, there's a bunch of taxes that we need to talk about. But I want to say to any of your Democratic friends, the Democrats have had the run of Sacramento for years. They have every statewide office. Governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, secretary of state, treasurer, controller, public administration, insurance commissioner. Every single one has been a Democrat since 2010. They had, for a year or two, that 2/3 majority needed to raise revenue. The Democratic Party had that. And that, by the way, is something that came in with Prop 13, Jerry Brown's gift to California in 1978. Supposedly, he was governor, then had been for 3 years. Supposedly, he was against Prop 13, but he didn't use his power to oppose it. He very weakly opposed it. Plus, he did not take care of business beforehand so that people weren't so desperate that they voted for something that people even then were not that stupid. They actually realized it wasn't exactly what they wanted in terms of the corporate properties. But in Prop 13 was where one line, mostly it talked about property, but not all of it was about property tax. One line required that any decision that the legislature made related to raising revenue had to be by 2/3 majority vote. So they've had the perfect scheme where bipartisanship is the game they play to keep this system in place. The Republicans were blaming the Democrat. Well, hey, they've got more people than we do. The Democrats were blaming the Republicans. Well, they've got 34% and they're tied our hands. We can't do anything. Democrats didn't even have those lousy excuses. They had 2/3 majority. And what did they do? I know I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to your Democratic Party friends. What did they do? Nada, nothing. Yes, rien, nothing. Did they raise the taxes on anybody? Now, the problem with the taxes is that you need 2/3 to raise them, but 50% to lower them. So what have these guys done all this time? They've lowered it in order to please the political donor class. They've lowered their taxes, and then when you need it, you can't get it back. But the kinds of taxes we need are oil severance tax. Every other jurisdiction in the world is what I've heard, not just every other state in the country. We need a financial transaction tax. If you pay a sales tax on stuff you buy for your house, financial transactions should have a tax, especially when a lot of the mess that gets paid for by the government is their mess. But we should have a financial transaction tax. We should stop the situation where our tax structure overall is regressive. State and local taxes, as paid by the lowest 20% is 10.6%. State and local taxes, 10.6, lowest 20%. Top 1%, 8.8%. So they've got tons of money, and for state and local taxes, they're paying less. And I'll wrap it up with this one last tax that I think we should start pushing real hard, and there are a number of countries that have it, and that includes France and Spain and I think Italy and even Liechtenstein and a few others that I can't think of at the moment, and that is a wealth tax. To look at what their wealth is and tax that, because they've gone so far, so fast. We need a wealth tax to get the money that they've stolen from us back. Thank you very much.